Hey there, I'm Nathan. And you know how during a lecture you might get bored and get distracted a little? Yeah, so I was thinking our university explicitly tells us when you get into a master to not test their software or websites because it most definitely has vulnerabilities. But luckily I'm not in my master's yet, so I did exactly that. I tried finding vulnerabilities in their website. And specifically during this one lecture, they talked about how you can scan through all the subdomains of a whole domain, and I wanted to test if I can use that to find anything interesting. And so in this short video, I wanted to take you through the steps I took using that method to find vulnerabilities in the websites of our university and finally show you what I found. So we start off with the domain UHasselt.pt. That's the domain of our university, and this is where we want to check for subdomains. How can we do that? Well, we open Kali Linux and we type in the subfinder and then D for domain, UHasselt.pt. Then we will start scanning, and eventually it will spit out a list, which you can see here, I did before. And in this case, it's huge. And we don't want to go through all of them because that takes ages. So what you can do is you can write a script which just sends a request to all of them on the port 80. So I'll write this down here. So you call the subfinder the UHasselt.be, and then we iterate over every subdomain and check if they're actually running a service. And in my case specifically, I was checking for port 80 because I wanted to see if they had a simple web server running, which is on port 80 obviously. And then we get a filtered list of every web server that the UHasselt is running, specifically in port 80, which is publicly available using a subdomain. And one of which stood out the most, which should be in here somewhere, see, CMS, which stands for Content Management System, and which is used for managing the content on a website, which essentially boils down to everything you see in terms of text or images or redirects, everything just except the real styling and stuff. But if you go to that, you just get redirected to the website itself. But here comes the interesting part. If you go into the DevTools, so you just inspect, and you go, for example, to sources where you can find this anywhere, you will find that it says Umbraco or Umbraco. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. And if you look for that, you will find out that this is the CMS they're using. So knowing that, using the URL we found previously, go to cms.uhasselt.be and then Umbraco. You can't see it right now because they've blocked it already. I already notified them, they fixed it already. But what you would see is more something like this, where it was literally just a CMS and you could see the redirects, all of the names, members on the website. It was all here, and if you went to the redirect, if you're here, then you would even see the original URL and the redirect, and you could remove them all. You could remove all of the redirects. You have even a tab for media, but you did need a page allocated to you before you could upload something, so that's good. But still, as a student, you should not have access to the content management system of the website. That's stupid. So I notified them and I told them about this. It still took like 2 weeks, I think, until they fixed it, or even longer. But yeah, they did eventually fix it. The problem here is just the fact that they don't check who is logged in. It's more of an authorization issue where they don't check if you're a student or professor or anything related. I guess just a wrong group, because, and this leads up to the next part, which I broke, and that's another domain I found, and that's the all of these account and API stuff you see. They eventually brought me to this one, and here you can see, oh, this one is still open by the way. But what you can see is this is the default template for the Azure API management, as you can see here below, which is real nice info, because if this API really works, this is chill. And I'll tell you why this is really interesting. I don't know if it'll still load. It seems like they removed it, but I'll try to sign in still. No, see, they did block this, but I had this list before, kind of like this one, if it'll load. I had this list of, or like documentation, essentially, where you could just see every command of the API and one of them was legit just financial records. Now the thing is, you do need an API key for this, which you can request. Once you sign in under product, you can, here you can see subscribe, and you could have subscribed to an API. But the thing was, luckily you couldn't subscribe without first someone accepting you for that specific API. But the thing was, the documentation for the whole API was still just public for every student at the university. And so that was pretty scary to see, because that definitely shouldn't be public like that. And I found multiple other test environments which didn't contain anything, luckily. I also tried breaking it, because obviously if you do get access to that API and actually can use it, that would be really bad. But that's kind of our goal. But the thing is, what I tried to do is I looked everywhere for if you could bypass it in some way, the fact that you need that extra layer of protection. And some older legacy versions did have the possibility to apparently list all API keys. And so by using a legacy version in your request, you could then also use that command, and whether or not you could use a legacy version was something you had to opt out of. So by default it was turned on, and I checked that and that was also disabled. Other vulnerabilities were also not possible. And then I tried to check their Azure API, obviously, but by going straight to Azure itself, because I know I can log in there using my student account. And so I went to Azure, and as you can see, I'm logged in still on my university account. And the thing was, now you can't see a lot, but maybe it's still here kind of. You see these? See, it loads for a second, which is really weird. And I also reported that to them, but it seems like they can't really fix it. I took a screenshot of it, and it really just shows stuff. I don't know how bad it is that it shows this stuff, but it was really scary to see at first, because using Burp Suite you can just pause it here without redirecting you instantly to this screen. It's probably hard to read because it's not in English, but you get it. It's a basic overview screen of it, and this is for all of them. I just find it weird that with a student account I can even see these. I feel like it should be a completely different environment. Not that it's really a security issue, not right now at least, but it's weird. I don't think we should be able to even access that. But besides that, they did block this, so you can't access the API documentation anymore, at least. Here you can see the report I made back then. But it was scary to see at first. So I'm happy that it's kind of resolved right now. I tried checking other domains, and there wasn't really anything else that was interesting or that I noticed I could really. But the only thing else that I found was if you use Blackboard, which is where we find all our course contents and everything, just everything we have to know. It also has an API, and I found this all pretty early on, because if you do this, for example, you go to courses, you can literally see all the courses, which is fine. There's security flaw here. But what's fun is you can also just list all the users, their ID, their student ID, as in which is on their card, first name, last name, profile picture, all the basic info. But also this one is the last modified at, which is a timestamp when they last logged in, which is pretty interesting. It's not bad necessarily, it's just a bit weird, I think. But it's really nice if you want to scrape it. Like, you can just do that. If you're a student, you can scrape it, and that's nice. It's also fun to figure out when people enrolled into the university for the first time. And if you want to find someone, see if they're studying at the university, the first year they attended, etc, etc. There's so much data, which is nice, but also not nice, I guess. I don't know if you want that online. It's not really public, it's for all the students, but still. I thought I found something else here, but there's not really anything security wise. You can see grades. I tried finding that because those also get published on here, but that's protected well. And then there's also another database they use, but the users in it, which you can see here on Postman. And then you can see, I don't know if it'll work. Yeah, you see the name, you see what organization you're in, and their timestamp. Not much actually. If you go to your own profile, how am I unauthorized from my own profile? Make that make sense. I don't know if this will work. Full screen. No, but yeah, nothing really interesting on that. And finally, there was also a system they switched to, which now contains their grades, which apparently other students got access to, that they were able to hear their scores beforehand. I tried doing it this semester as well, but they seem to have fixed this. They seem to have fixed it, and there doesn't seem another way to bypass it. So, but yeah, it's really fun to just explore these websites of the university and see if there are any vulnerabilities to try to break them, because most of the time they do have vulnerabilities and they're pretty basic. They feel like an easy challenge, which is fun if you're studying computer science and you want to have a bit of a challenge but not too much. You can just have fun while you're in your lecture, explore a bit, do fun stuff. I always feel like it's more, I feel like you get more from trying to apply your knowledge by breaking stuff instead of just more thinking about it in theory, because now you can actually see how the APIs work, try to navigate them. And with the domain names, you also figure out, okay, you have the DNS servers which lists all of them, and you can use that to find all the websites. Then you use Linux commands to filter them out. You send requests to check if it's a web server which runs on port 80. Lots of just small facts you have to know to really try to break this stuff, or stuff you can just learn along the way. If you are looking for web servers and you don't know where to look, you just ask AI for help. Like, I have these domains, what can I do with them? And maybe they can tell you something fun, give you some ideas. Some do try to block you and limit you, but I do recall Gemini proactively helping me trying to hack the website, which was weird. I thought AI had to kind of be legally correct, I guess. But Gemini was super hyped up to help me. And Claude just completely broke down, obviously. But yeah, have some fun. Maybe you can break something at your university. Just make sure you notify them beforehand, maybe. And also, if you do find something, don't wait to notify them or report them. Try not to break any laws. That's the main goal. In Belgium, we are allowed to try and hack these things as long as we notify them. So that's a fun part. So yeah, and maybe you got something out of this video. And if you want to, make sure to follow me on Twitter. Maybe go check out my new portfolio I just finished. I think it's pretty cool, pretty great. I made it with Astro. You may or may not have heard of it. And definitely let me know in the comments what you think about hacking your university. I think it's fun, but maybe you think something else. So see ya.